All right, thank you. Thank you, Victor, and thank you for having me and for audible. Please give me a sign if I am. All right, thank you. So my name is Irene Kimashia. I'm the head of corporate affairs and communications at the Institute of Human Resource Management. And we're very excited to partner with VIFA, as well as one of our very active members, Grace, who will be speaking to us this session, to just look at the SME space in relation to HR practice. And we are very excited as IHRM. I received greetings from our executive director, who sends her regards. Is in another engagement. I'd loved to join us, but I'm excited that at this point we already have 85. I don't know whether, Victor, you have an appreciation of the nature of the HR, or are they majority from SME space that would influence my next 5 minutes and how I make use of them?
It's a mixture. It's a mixture of both. So we have SMEs or entrepreneurs, as well as, I think, the membership of the institute.
All right, thank you. That gives me the necessary guidance. Allow me to just share a few slides. I will not get into the details of it. Just a minute. All right, I hope you can see my slides. So I will quickly go through who we are as IHRM and how you can get in touch with us and what our mandate is. Irene. For those who are members of IHRM, thank you for taking the time to join this meeting. And yes, please. Yes, Chris.
We can see your folders, not the PowerPoint.
Oh, and on my end, it's showing. Sorry about that. See you. How about now?
We can just see you.
Okay.
We can't? Okay.
Okay, I think I'll just speak to it. Something I can speak to, no problem.
Sure, proceed.
All right. So who is IHRM? IHRM is a statutory professional body. That means we established an act of government, that is the Human Resource Management Professionals Act, number 52 of 2012. That means that we have the mandate to regulate the HR space in Kenya. For those who are familiar with ISPAC, LSK, Kenya Institute of Supplies Management, we are in the space as professional bodies. So for the entrepreneurs, members who have joined this meeting are HR practitioners in different sectors of the economy, could be private sector, public sector, the NGO space, those private parties, are all members of IHRM, so that they can uphold the code of conduct, and also for as professional development. We do a lot of trainings in that respect, is what IHRM does at the moment. In relation to us, like what we are doing today with VIFA, we also endeavor to lobby and advocate for best HR practice. That is why we're excited about this engagement, that we can to uphold best practice, to respond to your questions if you have any, to provide the technical expertise. We have over 14,000 members, and these are HR specialists in different areas. So we are in a position to provide the technical expertise that you may need in your organization in terms of HR. So for us, we are based at Prism Towers. This is on that Ngong Avenue for those of us who are not members. We are also available online on all social media platforms, and our website is very interactive. So if you have any questions, any concerns concerning HR, any support that you may need, HR professionals, feel free to reach the Institute of Human Resource Management. I will share the slides that I would have presented with Victor, and he can share that with whoever is interested. Our contact details are there, and we will be happy to support you with whatever HR needs that you may have in your organization. Thank you, and back to you.
Thank you very much, Irene, for that very nice introduction. Maybe I would also give Grace an opportunity to do a quick introduction before we enter into the session.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to engage in this interesting conversation, and I am excited because I live by day with SMEs, and it's really interesting. Everybody is actually paying attention, and we hope to continue having this conversation. So my name is Grace Nzula. I'm an HR professional. I work at Atara Solutions. We are a HR consulting and training firm. We do quite a lot of work with SMEs. I am also the learning coordinator and moderator for RM in the major events. So I'm really looking forward to this because I think I have lived it for the last 4 years. So, Victor.
Thank you very much, Grace, for that introduction. Of course, myself, I'm looking forward to having to learning and just getting feedback in terms of what we've done in terms of study. So as I mentioned, at VIFA, what we do is we currently do a lot of SME research. And of course, if you look at national data, for instance, the last time Kenya did a nationwide unpacking of SMEs was in 2016. So that's the last national report that is currently there, which is the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics MSME report 2016. So a lot has happened, a lot has transpired between 2016 to 2021, now going to 2022. And the question that begs is the interventions that are being put out by the different stakeholders, whether it be it government or the institute or any other SME support organization, what is it based on? So if you are making an intervention or you are supporting SMEs, what data are you using to base the intervention that you're placing out? So this particular study is among the many studies that we do, just that allows different players to have to look at SMEs from a different lens, or just to be able to understand them better, for them either to tweak their product or to tweak an interventions that they are putting out to SMEs. So the way we structure the session will basically, I'll just take you through through the report that we put out. Then probably we can just we can have reactions to the report. Later on, I think I'll invite Grace. Maybe we can do a small panel, just trying to unpack the report, as well as sharing some insights that we can use as small businesses. Then, of course, we can open it up for question and answer. But even as we do that, I don't think, based on the numbers, we can be able to allow everyone to speak. But if through the session you feel that there is a burning question that you have, then you can be able to share that on chat. Then probably between myself and Grace, we can be able to take it up. And we hope that this session is going to be of interest to you, as well as is going to be helpful. So allow me to share the report that we were able to do. So the report is titled State of SME Human Resource in Kenya 2021, and looking at trying to unpack what basically this means. Like I mentioned, the last report that we had was the KNBS 2016 report. And basically that report, of course, had some unpacking of how SMEs are employing in terms of the different parameters, whether it's women, whether it's men, whether it's young people, how they are paying, etc. So again, that's quite far back. So of course, our study focused on this, not 47 counties, but the counties that I enumerated there: Nairobi, Kisumu, Machakos, Kiambu, Eldoret, Mombasa, and Nakuru. Of course, this is assumed to represent the entire spectrum of businesses in Kenya. As you are well aware, research does not mean that you look at the entire population. You just take a bit of a sample for you to be able to get a picture of what is actually happening. So of course, we know that SMEs are quite important to Kenya's socioeconomic development. SMEs currently contribute around 33% to GDP. Employ over 30% of working population in Kenya. SMEs constitute over 98% of all registered businesses in Kenya, both registered as well as unregistered. Of course, we know again that out of the 7.5 million SMEs, based on the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics report in 2016, it is estimated that we have around 7.4 million SMEs in Kenya. 5 million out of those 7 million are informal. 90% of the 7.4 million are micro, are between what is called micro and small. So these are businesses that have turnovers of less than 5 million in aggregate. So you can do the math and you can see how much they make in a given month. So of course, despite SMEs being very important to socioeconomic development, we've seen SMEs still struggle, and they continue to struggle. And again, if you are to cross-check data, we are seeing SMEs dying at a rate of around 75% in 3 years. So roughly that is around 3 out of 5 SMEs closing shop within the first 3 years of business. So of course, the challenges that they face is an entire spectrum by itself. We looking at challenges around access to finance, access to market, etc. But if we can be able to unpack, maybe for example, the HR practices, and if we can be able to offer better solutions, maybe that can lead to some sort of reprieve for SMEs in one way or another. Of course, we can't be able to solve all the problems, but we can be able to make a step towards that direction. So based on the last report, we know that 63% of SMEs had paid employees, which tells you something. And 16% of unlicensed, of course, had paid employees, which tells you something. So if 63% of SMEs had paid employees, it means that roughly around 40% were unpaid. And if you look at maybe from an informal perspective, 16% were paid. It means over roughly 80% are not paid. So the question is, if a majority are not being paid, then what form of remunerations are there? How are they hanging on? How are they paying them? How are they motivating them, etc. So it poses a unique challenge in terms of how can we be able to support these kind of entities, even though they're quite important and they are not in the shaped or in a position that we can be able to help them in terms of a formal sense. How can we be able to support them where they are? So of course, our 3 objectives for this study is just to see what is happening within SME space in terms of forms and types of employees. What are the income trends, and are there any HR practices that are currently being deployed within the SMEs? So the first question we asked was in terms of number of employees. So you can see already here, 1 out of 5, 67% employ between 1 out of 5. 6 to 10 is around 12%. So this is an aggregate of 79% of small businesses employing less than 10 people. So this is quite consistent with the national data in terms of how SMEs are structured. So if you look at KNBS report, we are seeing over 90% of businesses are micro to small. So a majority of businesses that are in Kenya are quite small. So the question is, if you have to look at issues around corporate governance, of course, HR practices included, how is that performing? So this gives you a snapshot of exactly that. As I mentioned, 79% are employing less than 10%. In terms of salary, average salary paid per month, as you can see here, what is sticking like a sore thumb is 23% are paying between 6,000 to 10,000. But as you can see, if you are to cap it at 20,000, we are seeing almost 50% paying less than 20,000. Again, that tells you something in terms of if you are a service provider or a business support organization. It tells you, 1, the number of employees that are there. Number 2 is it tells you the average salary, which tells you how big or how small that organization is. So as you can see, sectors that were paying more were paying well in terms of businesses who are media and entertainment, financial related SMEs, construction, and business support services. And of course, if you are to look at it from a macro point of view and look at the sectors that have been performing quite well in the last, I think, 2 years, COVID notwithstanding, it's very consistent with that. If you have to look at the last economic review by Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, we see construction is an area that has continued to perform well, of course, driven by the continued public sector investment by government. We can see, a lot of construction going around. So, of course, there is a ripple effect or a cascading effect to small businesses. So, in terms of mode of employee remuneration, again, we just wanted to unpack different flavors of HR. It might not be direct, hard HR questions, but just issues that relate to human interaction within a business. So we can see that a majority would pay the employee in form of mobile money. So of course, if you have to go a couple of years back, you are either paid cash. Of course, cash is still king, as you can see, but we are seeing mobile money playing an increasing role. Of course, banks and bank transfer are behind, are still there, but are quite behind. But we can see cash, mobile money has really come out very strongly, and is moving a lot of businesses away from the cash economy, which does not say that cash is not king. Cash is still king, and you can see, and based on our conversation with a lot of businesses, is although they are paying through mobile money, they're not making direct transfer to the employee's account. What happens is, because a lot of employees have Fuliza and a lot of these other mobile credits, they would prefer either a withdrawal from an agent. So even if you look at mobile money, it's not directly mobile money, it's still cash, but transacted through an agent. And of course, like I said, a lot of guys were running away from Fulizas and the likes of services that are there because maybe of default EPC. So in terms of forms of employee relationship with business owners, again, if you look at the nature of SMEs, they're quite small. The turnovers is also quite low. So it only makes sense for them to be able to get the cheapest form of labor. And of course, maybe, Grace, as we go through this, maybe you can start thinking about if I am employing a family member, what kind of best practices can we be able to take to bring on board? Again, the idea is to be practical. We know, big corporates, how they do their HR practices, they have systems in place. But the question is, how can we be able to help small businesses who are not where we want them to be, but would want to incorporate some best practices in one way or another? So maybe you can just simmer on that as we proceed. As we can see, it's family friends, then we have a bit of professionals. So SMEs, of course, as they grow, and it's demanded for them to comply and to formalize, then they are forced to engage professionals in terms of getting in-house professional services. In terms of preferred employee engagement mode, so basically, what are the terms that you are using to engage your employees? As you can see here, 38%, which is 38% are saying they engage in project-based engagement, and I think it's a question of just being risk averse, because maybe of low turnover or challenges with COVID and other systemic challenges. Very few want to commit to have very long-term commitments. As you can see, more than a year, we are looking at 11%. Short-term we are looking at around 36%. So it gives you a sense of risk averseness from the SME perspective. They would rather deal with casuals as well as project-based, so that the employee or the consultant is paid on a project basis, and they can proceed and they can save a relationship in case there are no projects. So there is some level of risk averse. In terms of employee type, again, just trying to unpack that, is we are seeing a majority are saying they prefer casuals, which gives a reflection as to the kind of businesses that Kenyans or Kenyan entrepreneurs are opening. So again, if you have to cross-check data from both central bank as well as National Treasury and as well as Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, we are seeing that a lot of businesses in Kenya are in wholesale retail. So basically what wholesale retail means is we are in the business of buying to sell. So because we are many of us, we are around 80, 70%, over 7% of what we call SMEs are in wholesale retail. So because a majority are buying to sell, number one, they don't have a competitive advantage. So it means that their profit margins are quite thin. So it means then that, of course, they can't be able to afford, much in terms of salary. So what they would prefer, and because of the nature of the business, they would prefer to have casuals who come on a day-to-day basis or are quite short-term. So as you can see, of course, we have functional, which are, your functional employees in terms of, accounting, HR, etc. Whether they are qualified for those functions is up for conversation. But again, I would not want to dwell too much on that. In terms of employee recruitment approach that are preferred, we are seeing headhunting in-house. And the reason why is you can see they're headhunting family members and friends. So this, you can draw a correlation between this and what we've seen up there. There is an affinity towards interns from family and friends, as well as referrals. So it's a tendency for the business not, resisting to open up to, external scrutiny, but maybe out of culture, but also I think because of resource constraint. As we go towards the end, we are seeing interns from institutions of higher learning. So either a referral from, a TVET organization or a university. And lastly, we are seeing working interns. So if whether it's a garage or it's a butchery, if you get someone coming asking for work, usually most of the time they get hired. So of course, if you're looking at it from an HR practice, you're like, hey, this is too much. We can't salvage this. But I think the point of having this conversation is for us to be able to get solutions with where the SMEs are and with the challenges they are facing. So we are not coming to say this is the prescribed format, is acknowledging the current practice with SMEs, then trying to look for solutions based on what we are seeing in terms of hard data. So in terms of employee education level, we are seeing a majority would prefer someone with a bachelor's degree. Of course, this is quite a challenge in the sense that we are seeing, I think the last report that we've seen from World Bank is we are getting almost 900,000 graduates coming into the labor market. Of course, if you are to compare that with the absorption, there is a mismatch. So there is a surplus of graduates. Again, whether they're applying what they learned in school, again, is up for discussion. But that's quite interesting. Preferred employee training capacity building approach. Again, this is an aspect or a flavor of HR. We are seeing a lot of them are trying to build capacity of the employees through on-job training or apprenticeship, especially because a majority of businesses are informal. So whether it's a garage, an employee or an intern would come, they will start training on the job. As you move, depending with the sector, we are seeing industry workshop or mentorship. Again, mentorship is quite informal in the sense that it's not your formal engagement in terms of mentorship, in terms of how we understand it. But what we are seeing is, for instance, we currently have an assignment where we are supporting Jua Kali, the different clusters of Jua Kali. We are seeing mentorship with, an informal mentorship where maybe a younger entrepreneur would come, have tea, or have lunch with an experienced business person, and he can be able to share one or two learnings based on their own experience. So that's one of the areas that we are seeing in terms of employee development and as well as training. Then we have employee sponsored training. So again, for small businesses, because of lack of resources, we are seeing that they're encouraging the employees to either go for certificates or some form of training that can be able to add value to back to their business. So as you can see, of course, despite the high preference for education, there is a mismatch. So you can see a mismatch in terms of if you're preferring graduates and you are saying that you'd want graduates to be the people you're employing, then the question is, why are you taking a graduate and going through an apprenticeship program, or why are you telling them to go back to school? So it means that it tells you that there could be a possibility of a mismatch between the kind of education that the employee has received and the kind of skills that they need to apply in their business. So that's the end of that report. If you notice, most of our reports are quite brief, and this we've learned based on interacting with different readers. So in Kenya, we are quite averse. We are quite averse to reading, and our concentration span is not as much. So what we try to do is to be able to give brief reports that a majority can be able to relate with quickly, and we can use these reports to spur conversations. I would stop there, and maybe as a segue to our next session, which is reaction. Maybe I would invite both Grace and Irene to just give their sentiments in terms of your reaction to the report, whether you agree or not, and comments that you feel that, or any additional comments that you might want. Then after that, then I can just invite Grace in terms of just a couple of questions. Then we can open it up to the questions that we are seeing on chat. Maybe we can start with Irene, then we can go to Grace.
Thank you so much. I'm realizing we have a house full. I wish we had an opportunity to have everybody on board, but we will share the reports of great interest. My comment would be really that the report findings demonstrate the gap there is in terms of HR practice in the SME space, and the need for us who are in the HR space to support and to come up with quick solutions that are pocket friendly as well. So that is something as an institute we are picking from the findings and going back to the drawing board to see how best we can support those in the SME space. So allow me to leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Irene. Grace?
Like just what Irene has said, I think the report is actually a representative of what's happening on the ground, because actually I have laughed when you said people are paid by M-Pesa. It is actually a reality, and we in fact, even the employees themselves don't want to be paid by check and stuff. They just want to receive their money on M-Pesa and we move on. So yes, this is a representative, and I think it's a good thing because it's a call on to us to also give support, and it's an opportunity for HR professionals to be able to partner with the SMEs and give them the support to appreciate the profession first of all, and also to create a better and sustainable businesses.
Yeah, thank you. And of course, as a segue to your first question, again, when we say HR, we assume that everyone knows what HR means or what HR is all about. I don't know, maybe you can, describe to us, for a small business person who doesn't understand what HR is, what is HR management, and why is it important for a small business to incorporate good HR practices?
Right. So HR, I think for somebody who is not an HR, I would define it using example. It involves things like recruiting. It involves things like managing the people. It involves things like compliance, and it also involves training and development and developing your talent. And this is, we define HRM as the procedure of linking the function of HR to the goals of the organization to foster productivity and increase efficiency and effectiveness. So why would a small business want to have HRM, or just appreciating, or what are the benefits? That would be compliance. We have a lot of issues when it comes to compliance with SMEs, and especially when it comes to legal compliance on what the labor laws dictate and the other acts that support employment. We also have another advantage of having HRM, a strong HRM in the office would be they help you retain good talent. Actually, first of all, you have to find good talent to retain it. And a lot of people don't have time to go recruiting. They don't have time. That's why they're settling for their friends and their family members. So the having HR professionals in their workplaces for small businesses will help them get good talent and also manage the people to retain them. And then we talk about performance. We are managing for performance and not performance management. So you need a professional to actually help you manage for performance so that you can have excellence and you build a business that can last beyond you. And then we also have the advantage of having HR is it helps with conflict management. A lot of us don't even have grievance procedures, especially for SMEs. There is also the need for documentation. I can tell you a lot of the cases people have in court, and especially in SMEs, they started when they were a startup. You know, when they were small, micro, then they went to small, now they are medium. The issues that they failed to document when they were small or medium actually is killing them now. So conflict management, compliance, building relationships, improving employee turnover, because if you're running a business and your work is to hire and fire, again, you're risking your business. And let me point out that, about 50% of businesses close by the 5th year. And this is very sad because if you look at why they fail, part of it is HR. They're not able to get good talent. They are also suffering from what we call owner management syndrome. They want to do everything instead of delegate. And then they also end up hiring poor talent or unskilled people. And therefore they end up not having sustainable businesses. So if we are going to change, then we appreciate such research that brings to the front on exactly what's happening on the ground. Yeah.
So now, I'm just hearing you talk about legal compliance, etc. So the question is, based on what we are seeing that 90% of the people we are calling SMEs are actually micro. So these are people with turnovers of less than 500,000. So that's around 50,000 a month. You look at your average HR consultant, that's actually their fee. So in terms of practical application for small business, before I reach the point where I'm getting proper support, what are the basics? What do I need to incorporate or inculcate into my processes now, so that I don't reach a certain point and it comes and bites me? So very practical application of HR practices to a business that really is too small for an expert such as yourself.
First of all, I think leveraging on friends is a good thing, if you ask me. We all have friends who are HR professionals. We have friends who are accountants. We have friends who are in these specialized areas. It is okay to leverage on them because they can help you set up a proper HR. Now, if you're running a business and you can't afford to have somebody with you, the first thing that you need to do is documentation. With HR, you have to get documentation right. With HR, you must make sure simple things like being aware that there's a Data Protection Act, being aware that employee-employer relationship exists, being aware of the risk that it poses. And for example, you've talked about a lot of SMEs having casuals. Who is a casual? Because I have seen a lot of problems. In my practice, I've seen a lot of issues where you go into an organization and you're told, no, those are casuals. You ask, casuals? Yeah, they've been with us for the last 5 years. Oh, wow. Okay. That's not a casual, that's your employee. So it is, first of all, the business owners need to be aware of what the basics, there are courses that we run that are called HR for non-HR. Basic things that you can actually expose yourself, get to understand who is an employee, who is a casual, what are the different types of engagements that we have for employees. So that even as you engage the employees, as you start having an employer-employee relationship with these people, then you have a contract that is properly written. And even if there's no, you are aware that there's something that we call an implied contract. So some of these things are important for the business owners to be aware of before we can even go ahead and start saying, okay, fine, let's not afford this person. So documentation, taking advantage of technology, Google Forms, Keep a record that you paid this person. Keep a record that you're deducting pay. Keep a record that you're paying NSSF and NHIF. Some of these statutories will come to bite you in the latter. So it is important that you keep a record, know who is your employee, where are they, like in terms of their ID. And please remember, there's Data Protection Act. So as you collect these documents, also make sure that you're operating within the law. So the first thing I think SMEs and leaders in the micro businesses, the first thing you need to do is awareness. They need to know what is not and what is employer-employee relationship, and what are the governing areas that need to go with that. After that, I think it becomes easier because some of these things unfold as you grow.
Yeah. So what is interesting, like I said, of course, there is resource constraint based on the size of the business. But again, a lot of businesses in Kenya are family, are family businesses. So of course there are challenges, general challenges around corporate governance for family business, but specifically for HR. I don't know, can you be able to speak to family business and see what kind of practices that they can be able to incorporate in such a kind of a business?
Lucky for you, I worked for a family business for 9 years. And I consult, I think I have about 5 family-owned businesses that I consult for. And what we have done, or what my advice is normally is, whatever the relationship you have with this person, first of all, you need to hire for skill, attitude, and knowledge. Even if it's your brother and you're giving them the marketing department to run, do they have the skill and knowledge and the right attitude to actually excel in that? Because if they don't, you have 2 things: equip them with the skill and support them. Thing of collecting anyone and placing them everywhere, that's how they end up closing shop. That's how they end up messing up with the relationship with each other. So if you're hiring, or if you're incorporating your family, brothers and sisters and cousins and all that, or even your friends, make sure that the relationship is actually clear and understood. And we have something we call a family constitution that governs family-owned businesses. There's also now the proper way of running the business. So the family constitution actually helps you define whose role is which, and to what extent does your power rest. Because we realized that quite a number of family-owned businesses have issues because people get attached, they get angry, they get, wanna catch feelings, for lack of a better word. Yeah. So for that reason, a family constitution is very, very important for family-owned businesses.
So who writes this family constitution? Is this the family members themselves, or do they have to get an expert to do that?
It is important that they get an expert to actually learn what is included, but if in the absence of one, they can actually draft it themselves. They can decide, okay, fine, we are 4 brothers. What are you going to be responsible for? Who is going to be the overall CEO? Who is going to sign for the money? Who is going to be the HR? What are your limits, and what are you allowed to do? And then how often do they meet? Because family-owned businesses, they must have meetings every so often, because all of them are decision makers, and you don't want people to bring work home. Yeah.
Quite interesting there. So the other area that I think maybe you can help us to address is around motivation. Of course, a lot of businesses can't be able to pay like a corporate would, and you would find someone coming to work, but they are looking for their next job because either the salary is too low and they don't have opportunities for growth. I don't know, based on the resource constraint for small businesses, what do you think are remuneration things that a small business owner can be able to maybe free lunch or free tea or something?
Motivational, yeah. Okay, we have, let me use a HR term. We have 2 types of motivation. You have intrinsic and extrinsic. So I think that money is a motivation for everybody. And I can tell you this for a fact. Victor, you can be paid $500,000 today and you will still not go to work. You will still be demoralized.
Of course.
And there's also this thing that we normally say, a strategy for breakfast. So no matter if you have a bad culture, number one, you cannot have motivated employees. So the first thing I think small businesses need to do is cultivate a culture of belonging for the people. That is motivation number one. Because don't forget, the SMEs are the same people who don't get, people resign without giving a resignation notice. Because they are afraid, because the culture is really bad. If you resign, you're fired before your notice is gone. If you resign, you're not paid. If you resign, there's so many things that go around SMEs. So they're the same people who created a culture so bad that people are demoralized. And I can tell you, money does not equate to motivation. That is a fact. So we need to have, you need to study your people and understand. By the way, SMEs are not always broke. Eh?
Sure.
You can afford a lunch once in a while. You can even, you can afford to pay for them a cab if they're working late, you know? You can also be able to say, okay, fine, this month we've done well, here's 1,000 shillings for airtime. Or next month, let's see what happens. Also, we have this thing of working from home. Encourage people, encourage a culture of innovation, encourage a culture of trust. Let employees know that you can trust them to make decisions. Let them know that you appreciate them. Let them know that they are allowed to make mistakes. And when they are very costly mistakes, make sure that you're also reprimanding. So it is your culture that you base on their motivation, not necessarily the fact that you cannot afford them to take them for. I mean, you cannot afford to take them for training. But again, on trainings, yeah, we have quite a lot of free online trainings these days. Like us at Atara, we run a training every Tuesday. It is normally free. And we upload all the recordings on our YouTube channel. Anyone who is trying to get educated around employee issues and employer issues, you can find that there. We have things, opportunities like Udemy. IHRM runs free trainings for its members. So we can take advantage of these trainings and send our employees. All we need is to allow them time. You see now the problem we have with SMEs is, okay, fine, you want people to career develop. You want them to have, you hired them as an HR, but they don't know how to do performance management. You don't give them an opportunity to actually attend a performance management training. You see now, all you need is probably time, not necessarily cost. Even when the employees are paying for themselves, we don't allow them to attend these trainings. So it's up to us as SMEs to create a culture that allows development, a culture that allows people to flourish. And this thing, I can tell you, doesn't cost. Not hard cash.
Makes a lot of sense. And I think maybe I can also bring Irene, because of course you represent the Institute. The question is, based on the current, maybe even this research as well as your understanding of SMEs, and given that I know, of course, you're focused on HR practitioners, but because this represents the body of HR experts in Kenya, what do you think? In terms of product, of course, Grace has mentioned some of the areas around HR that can be incorporated, but in a systemic manner, how will the Institute, after this meeting, have practical outputs that they can use to support small businesses in Kenya? I don't know, maybe either HR for fools, something, either it's a training.
We call it HR for non-HR.
Sorry for lack of a better word, but HR for non-HR. Yes. That is either free or affordable and easily accessible, so that we can be able to start supporting small businesses where they are as they transition to get towards getting full either in-house or expert HR people. We've seen KEPSA, run programs that is targeted towards SMEs, whether it's digital, empowerment, etc. I don't know if either you have such a program or it's something that maybe you would want to consider.
This is to Irene?
Yes, this is to Irene. Or you can answer, of course.
All right. Yes, Victor, thank you. Yes, we do have HR for non-HR, like Grace has indicated. it depends on the number of days, so the cost implications may vary. But I also appreciate what you talk about, the costing, something that's affordable and easily accessible. We do have free forums, and like what we are having today, that is virtual. So it is something that we are doing to a greater extent, and is something that we need to enhance. And having a partnership like with yourself and someone like Grace, who is working with SMEs, we are doing a lot more of that in terms of reaching out to the specific sectors and supporting them. So something is being done, but a lot more still needs to be done to reach as many people as possible. And we're also working on toolkits that we can, that will be available for a business owner that needs to quickly understand or refer to a document on HR issues as they make decisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Irene. I think on the toolkit bit, because we also do quite a bit of toolkits, either sales toolkit, strategy toolkits for SMEs, just mundane, very simple toolkits that they can be able to apply. I think maybe that's a conversation we might need to have maybe later on, just to see how we can be able to have very simple, easy to use toolkits that SMEs can be able to use. Even a list of documentations that they need when they're when they're employing someone. What are bullet points in terms of lists? These are the documents you need. If I'm a family business and I need a family constitution, what are the do's and don'ts? What do I need to incorporate or not? Yeah, so that we can start be able to build that culture of incorporating some of these practices. By the time someone is a small or medium-sized business, they are already aware of practices, and it's just trying to just strengthen that and professionalize that to a large degree. I don't know. I had requested that maybe the audience send questions on chat. I haven't seen any on chat in terms of questions. But maybe I can we can spend maybe the last 5 minutes or so just getting questions from the audience, maybe 2 or 3. You can either unmute yourself and ask a question. In case either Grace or Irene, there's something that you still want to address, I think we are still open to that.
I think we have a big job in sensitizing SMEs in appreciating the HR. We need to create awareness that even when you're starting a business, because I can speak for an employer as well, even when you're starting a business, it's okay to realize that you need people. And for you to exist with these people, there are things that you need to do, because employer-employee relationship exists. And these people are the people who actually help you or propel your business to grow. And especially the risk factor. In my experience, as we wait for somebody to unmute, yeah. I've seen, and this works because legal compliance has been a very, very big issue. I was just, I received a call from a client yesterday who has not paid for, I've seen Dr. Kitonyo has raised their hand. But let me just give this example. They employed somebody, and 3 months later they got sick and they were admitted. Unfortunately, 2 months later they died, and they were not paying for their NHIF. And now they're stuck because the family says the law dictates that you are required to provide a medical cover. And that is why NHIF is mandatory. Now they're stuck because they're being told that the bill at NHIF is yours to clear. And they're wondering, my God, NHIF would have been 3,000 or 5,000, 10,000. And now they have a bill of 100,000 to clear. So, yeah.
That's interesting. Dr. Peter Kitonyo.
Thank you very much, IHRM, for organizing for this webinar, and also for Victor and Grace taking us through such an important topic. I would like to say that first and foremost, I would like to commend that it's a very good study which has come up with very good insights into the different dimensions of HR practice within the SMEs. First and foremost, I think that out of the issues you have discussed, I would wish that perhaps we also consider the question of ownership, which seems to be quite a factor. Maybe that determines even the HR practices within these organizations. And also the size of SMEs. Basically looking at different levels of the sizes, how does it really influence the HR practice? That could be a good area to look at. The other thing is that separately, I think I've heard you mention about the unpaid employees. I'm just wondering, are these family people or friends who just walk in, help a bit and walk away? You know, I don't know. Basically how we are able to come up with those ones. And lastly, I think maybe Grace can look at this, having consulted for family-owned businesses. Of course, you have so many Kenyans working for such organizations. And I'm just wondering, of course, maybe the organization may not put in place systems, may not put in place records and that kind of thing. How can the employees who are working in such organizations protect themselves from maybe being misused, being, abused in terms of maybe they are not paid well, whatever it is? I mean, how can they really help themselves out of problems which might arise because of these small enterprises not having proper systems in place? I think that is that's very critical. Otherwise, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Peter. I think maybe just to address one before maybe I let Grace come in, is around the unpaid employees. Like I mentioned, this is data from Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, which 2016, which indicated, of course, a majority of SMEs don't actually pay in terms of remuneration the way we understand it, in terms of a salary. So maybe if you were to unpack that, there is some form of remuneration. It's only that we don't understand it. Either it could be coming in kind or in one way or another. But it's something that exists. Could be maybe because of family members. Again, because a majority are family owned. So, and with the lack of a family constitution, then it is assumed that you don't get paid. But what happens is they still pick money from the box. So, and this leads to sustainability challenges for small businesses. So you're not paid, they don't have a salary, but at the end of the day, out of the turnover that is done for the month, they would come and pick that. So of course that we have to unpack that maybe much more deeper for it to make sense, how to be able to engage or give HR interventions to such organizations.
Okay, so I can go?
Yeah.
Okay. Dominic, mute yourself kindly.
Yeah, proceed.
Right. Yeah. So, Dr. You've asked about how employees who work in family-owned businesses can protect themselves from malpractices. I think we are getting to a place where even the people running the family businesses are beginning to appreciate the value of HR, and they have they rely a lot on especially things like minimum wage. But for employees, it's time to educate yourself. It's time to create awareness amongst all of you, because some of this information is actually available online. Now, once you're aware of what your rights are, of what is required of you, you can start lobbying in your different organizations. I know we have a catch-22 where if I speak, I'll be fired and my children need to eat, you know? And we see a lot of that in industrial area, but we have also seen quite a number of employers who are coming up to say, I appreciate my employees, I cannot do this without them. And therefore they go ahead and they pay them at least the minimum wage. So it's up to us, it's up to the employees to actually know and create, just volunteer to learn what is a right to them and what is not. And if they think that they can get more, and obviously we have the unions in place, which have over the years lobbied for employees who even to date are still quite powerful. So you can be a union member, but you can also lobby, because I know some organizations where if you're a union member, you're fired. And obviously you have a family to feed. So it's up to you to also lobby and make sure that you're performing. You know, you perform and then demand. You don't not perform and then start demanding. So if you're performing, then you can make demands. So make sure that you are aware of what your rights are, what your mandate is, start performing, and then when you're performing, it's easy for you to be heard, so to speak.
Thank you very much, Grace, for that. It's exactly 3:01, and we are respectful of time. I'm sure, of course, we can have more conversations around this, and I think the whole idea for this session was to catalyze the conversation. Maybe based on the feedback that we've received, maybe we can do a focus on a certain area that maybe as HR practitioners you would want to unpack. Either, this remuneration, how can we understand it better, and how can we be able to get interventions toward the same? That's a note to us. Maybe I would like to invite, lastly, of course, Irene to give a vote of thanks. I think because me and Grace, we've been talking quite a bit. Then probably we can just close it at that. Irene?
All right, thank you, Victor, and thank you, Grace, for sharing the great insights. I know we had limited space, and I keep seeing some members say we wanted to join. So the next time we'll make arrangements for more people. But from this session, we also have some takeaways as the Institute. One, to continue collaborating with those in the SME space to come up with HR solutions for entrepreneurs, and also to engage our members who can offer these solutions, because members really are the ones on the ground and appreciate what the challenges are and the contributions that we can make. Alice Nguyo, kindly mute. Thank you. Secondly, is that we are going to share this report with our membership as well. So for those who did not make it to join, you can also share the report with them. And we will very soon have another engagement where we can directly engage with SMEs who actually need these resources. And also we will get back to our members on some of the areas that you would want us to prioritize, and also your areas of expertise in the SME space, so that we can provide the needed support. Thank you, Viva Consult, for organizing this and for the initiative really to understand HR practices in the SME space. And thank you, Atara Solutions, as always. Asante.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Grace, for that. I think, as I mentioned, my name is Victor Otieno. You can go to Viva Consult, see all the kind of studies that we've done. I've seen a quick question from Doctor in terms of recommendations. I think the whole idea was just to give us a glimpse of what are the current HR practices. It is now for the different stakeholders to decide the kind of interventions that they would want to put out based on the challenges that have been posed by the study. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a nice day.